What's going on, y'all? It is your girl, Brie Undeniably, checking in for another episode of my speaker series, Deep Conversations with Dope Individuals, where we're discussing development, decision making, and dedication to purpose. Today, as always, I am here with another super dope individual. Before I introduce her, I want to do a couple things. First, shout outs, and then also I just have a disclaimer just about the sensitivity of topics we'll be discussing today. But first and foremost, shout outs. I love to do them, I love to give credit where it is due. If you are watching this podcast on YouTube or if you are listening to the crisp sound, that is all thanks to Gotham Podcast Studio. That is where I'm recording from. They are doing the audio and video engineering, so I'm super thankful to be working with them and have this space. So shout out to Gotham. Also, shout out to MC Kicks. Though I am not rocking any MC Kicks gear, they are always putting me on with the merch and all the cool customized gear. So if you haven't checked them out, you can find them at EMCEEKICKS. That's on Instagram, all social platforms, as well as mckicks.com is their site. If you have not checked out my site, gotta pump myself up as well, briandandiley.com. That's where you can get all of your dope individual merch to go with the dope individual podcast that we're doing here. You can also get your I Am Possible merch there. So the I Am Possible beanies, sweatshirts, we have duffel bags, so all types of gear there. So buy into the possibility of you and go check that out on my site. One more quick shout out today. If you are watching on YouTube, I'm actually going to slide my laptop over here. If I'm wearing something cool, I'd like to talk about it. So this is actually a former student of mine, though I will not say their name. Shout out to them. The sweatshirt says education plus revolution equals culture shift, which I think is such a dope piece of merch to be rocking and supporting a former student. So shout out to them. Keep doing your thing. I love, love, love supporting young entrepreneurs. Okay, those are all my shout outs. I am about to introduce my guest, but I just want to let everyone know that if you are listening in today, I do want to offer a sensitivity disclaimer. We will be talking about sensitive topics in today's podcast that are around abuse and trauma, both in childhood abuse and trauma, as well as, kind of talking about how that has how that is in this guest's life and why she is talking about it. So we will be discussing those topics, and I just want to let anyone know to make sure if that is a sensitive topic for you, that you are listening in a comfortable space and a space where you feel safe and secure. Okay, so we are here with Kimberly Bell. I am so excited to have Kimberly on. Kimberly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a
Abs-
blessing. It's an honor, Bree.
Absolutely. It's so, so wonderful to have you. I really look forward to doing this episode with you. And I am going to give you the introduction that you deserve. So, uh,
Oh,
yes, absolutely.
don't have me tearing up now.
Not yet. Okay, so Kimberly Bell is a passionate speaker and author who uses personal life struggles as a fountain of inspiration, empowerment, and insight into the realities that are often hidden beneath the surface of our society. Through her talks, she covers topics around domestic violence, kinship and foster care, teen pregnancy, child abuse, sexual abuse, and abusive relationships, as well as the trauma and PTSD that follows. She has a deep understanding of family dynamics and how that shapes the mind, and she uses her words to empower others and help people overcome abandonment and rejection. Once again, Kimberly, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here, and
Thank you,
yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it. Um,
thank you.
yeah, yeah. So the way that I really like to start the show is that in the counseling community, I always like to meet my clients where they're at to help me understand them and where they are in their life space right now. So I do the same thing with my guests so that my listeners can have a better understanding of who you are. So if you don't mind, help us meet you where you're at and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, well, where I'm at right now is I'm loving this season of life that I am as a single parent of five.
Wow.
Right. Four
Wow.
adult children and one five, well, one minor, which she just turned 6 years old in December.
Oh.
So, and I have six grandchildren, and I'm just loving life. I still work full time as a case manager, and I've been doing that for a while. And I love my cases. I love my families. I love that type of work because I daily, I find my purpose of assisting and sharing, if not a thought, a word, a smile from the phone, or be a,
Mhm.
doing camera, that during this journey of whatever circumstances or situation anyone's in, we can get through it. We can get through it. We can't get through it alone. We can get through it together. Some
Yes.
kind of way we're going to get through it.
That's such sound advice, and you are for sure the person to hear those words from, because I know that there's so much power behind that saying specifically. You can get through it, or we can get through it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely. Well, okay. So, I mean, you're doing powerful work day to day. I really want to jump sort of right into it. I know, as I had already mentioned, that we are going to talk about some sensitive topics, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I know in our previous discussion, as we talked about you coming on the podcast, you really went in depth about the life journey that you went on and how that has really, transformed a lot about you and who you are, and has led you to write your book, and really be inspiring people through that. So I really want to bring listeners um, down this journey of difficult times, but also of transformational times for you.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so let's, wherever you'd like to begin there.
Okay, all right, Bree. So, yeah, as our previous conversation, jumping right into the inspiration of putting my whole journey, my
Mm-hmm.
whole life from the beginning into a book, um, I had to accept, first of all, these um, beyond control situations, and then some controlled situations that I went through. I actually went through them, and they were sad, and they were awful, they were disappointing, and they were hurtful, and they were, you know, um, some things that other people had went through themselves. And so, from the beginning of being dropped off, from at 5 years old, from my biological father to live with my um, biological aunt, which it was his sister, paternal aunt. And I had never stayed with this family in my life, but I had lived with my biological family all the way up until I was between 5 and 6 years old, and I witnessed physical abuse. I witnessed emotional abuse, because even at that age, I never seen a loving relationship between my mother and father.
Mm.
I never seen them, but um, always remember the drama that I witnessed,
Mm-hmm.
the arguments, the disappointing looks towards each other, the yells, the so when a child continuously or repeatedly sees that, it's far and few for them to, if I had ever witnessed or if I ever seen any other loving signs. I can't remember. Now I do recall my older sister, which is 2 years older than me, that I'm wearing her necklace now, that she
Oh.
bought me last year for my birthday. Um, we were separated, of course, but she was 2 years older than me. But at that time, um, I witnessed her love, a sibling love, and I gravitated to that. I
Mm-hmm.
also felt my father's love, but I never, Brie, connected with a mother love, even from little. I always remembered this beautiful brown skinned woman looking at me and wondering, why was she so mean? Why
Mm.
she hated me so? Why did she treat me the way she did? What could I do to better deserve her love? What could I do as a child? And this is 4 and 3 years old, Brie.
Oh.
Could I be quieter? Could I be um, um, more loving? Could I just stay out of her way more, for her get the for me to get the attention from her. I yearned all the way up until I can remember a hug from her, a caring sensitivity, um, feeling,
Yeah.
whether it was physical or whether it was emotional. I yearned for that, and I
Yeah.
never got it. And so I do remember being dropped off after a very traumatic experience. Me and my sister witnessed. My father and her was riding around, and they had us in the car, and he kept going around trying to get us watched, and no one would, I guess, could watch us. So I do remember specifically we stopped, I believe, at a gas station or a convenience store, and he physically beat her um, in front of us till we see nothing but blood.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, blood was coming from her eyes, her nose, from her mouth, and Brie, I remember just like it was yesterday that I was like in um, a zombie state.
Oh,
Like
gosh.
I couldn't move. I couldn't cry. I couldn't move. I remember glancing over my to my sister who was hysterical. She was crying and trying to beat my dad off. Both of us in the back seat. But I remember going from her to my parents, her to
Mm-hmm.
my parents as frozen, like the frozen. Like
Yeah.
I just couldn't. Well, I was a silent child anyway because, like I said, Brie, I was trying to get that love and attention
Mm-hmm.
from my mother. So I had no words to say. I couldn't cry. I just was in the wondering state of what in the world is going on and why is this happening to such a beautiful woman that I care about so much that hasn't showed me any love. And there here my sister's upset, and why is my dad doing this? And it was horrible. So anyway, that happened just before now I was dropped off.
Whoa.
It wasn't like a day or a week passed, but this was hours before I was dropped off and was told that that he would be back, and that was it. And I ended up staying with these people for my journey.
My
Was
goodness.
no return, was no reunited with my biological mother, biological father. Down the road, they did divorce. She did have other children by him, but I never reunited with them. I never got reunited with my older sister, and that's where I stayed. So, getting back to this transparency and bringing,
Mm-hmm.
like my book, I had to accept that beginning. It was, I don't really believe until the book was released, accepted in a way that it freed me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I just, I, first and foremost, I sincerely thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability in sharing that piece of your story. That is, I just, I'm taking a moment to take it in because you said something that struck a chord after saying all that. That you had to accept this as your beginning. And that right there, that this was your beginning.
It was my beginning.
This was your
Yes.
beginning. And I just, I am, I guess, taking in the magnitude of that
Mm-hmm.
experience for a child, for that to be your beginning, and just to know, knowing where you're at now, and to know
Thank
that
you.
you get to share the power that is behind this story. But I'm already truly inspired by you. And again, I sincerely appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, no problem. No
Absolutely.
problem. And I always been one that from little after being given to my adopted family because they ended up adopting me, but I never had a one-on-one or a two-on-one sit down and talk and say, you're going to be adopted. Your birth certificate is going to be changed. You're going to stay here. You will not be going back. I never got that talk. I never got closure from my biological mother. And I think that's good for someone to hear that
Mm-hmm.
you may at times never get closure, but you have
Mm-hmm.
to find peace within. I never got closure. Why? I wasn't reunited back with my mother or my siblings. What happened with her and our relationship, um, why she didn't fight for me, um, and there were questions that was asked, but I was never given an answer. I was
Right.
never given a response. Um, so I had to learn, and after this book was released, and I had the caption underneath that said accept and embrace it all. That's where the embrace came from, is that I had to embrace the unexpected outcomes
Mm-hmm.
of situations and circumstances. Embrace them, because it's no way I can let that define me and stun my growth,
Mm-hmm.
stun the relationship between my children and my grandchildren,
Yes.
because I want to expect. Hear this. I'm still yearning and expecting on holding on to a relationship with my biological mother that does not want that, that cannot give me that for whatever reason that is. I don't know, but it's not worth my life. It's
Mm-hmm.
not worth my life to be depressed
Mm-hmm.
and anxiety and filled with fear and discord
Right.
and even hate, because I love her and will always love her. But the expectation had to be embraced of it was an unexpected outcome for me,
Mm-hmm.
because no matter what, I still reached out and said, let's have a relationship, a daughter and mother, relationship, regardless. You can't make up for time.
Yeah.
I'm not even asking that. But what I was asking, she did not want to give. And
Mm.
you can't make anyone give something that they can't give. Get love, and I had to
Yes.
find this out, Brie. Brie is not love. Love is not bought.
Mm-hmm.
You can't buy love. It either is given unconditionally, genuinely, or nothing, and you have to choose what that love you want to accept. I give that unconditional love, and I expect the same in return. Not that I have to buy it, not that I have to beg for it. My adopted dad gave me unconditional love, and he was not my biological father.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where the epitome of Kimmy came from. This is where the title Kimmy came from, because he called me Kimmy. And he would say, listen to your dear old dad, Kimmy. And he raised me with the foundation of, God and trusting in God and church. And he would always say, he said, Kimmy, I was going through a period in my life where my my adopted mother, she was only doing what she knew what was best. I don't think it was intentionally harmful, but because they were in that older era, they she seemed to adopt those ways of criticizing skin tone and color and features. And at that time, around 9 or 10 years old, and I learned from this with my girls. I will text any time and say, "Hey, beautiful, what are you guys doing or whatever?" Because I learned to um, make sure that I don't repeat those unhealthy cycles.
Mm.
Well, this is how my self-esteem had went down, and I had to rebuild my self-worth, as you were saying, Brie, of accepting my foundation. My
Right.
foundation with my color was criticized from the beginning with my adopted mother. And I don't think it, like I said, it wasn't intentionally hurt, but it did hurt me.
Yeah.
And it damaged my self esteem, because she said, oh, Kim, you're you're brown, and you're not light as us. Your skin complexion is not light as us, and you look different, but we still love you. You may have a nigger nose and your lips are thick, but we still love you. It's okay. at 9 and 10, I'm like, whoa, this
Yeah.
is a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand this nose. I can't stand these lips. So I ended up growing thinking that this is something wrong because of what was invested in me. But then there was my adopted dad that had a lot of wisdom, and he had that unconditional love. And even though he couldn't save me from all the hurt and all the things that were planted as seeds from my biological mom, but he would say to me, Kimmy, stop hiding that smile. The world needs to see your smile. Do you know how that smile would make someone's day? So, you know, so I'm
Wow.
trying to give you, Bree, and other listeners other things to understand, to gravitate from those pros and cons, help shape this Kim that you see now, but also that will help us in our journey to understand how powerful words are and how we have to cut some of these um, generational,
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy styles that have been repeated cycles, and make this better relationship and a better world for our next generation and for our even for ourselves. You know. Yeah.
Absolutely. My gosh, I'm just, I'm over here and I just feel like lost in the power of your words. And I just your story is just every piece that you tell is so intentional with the power behind it. And I just want to highlight two pieces that you just touched on. One, um, rewinding a bit, you were talking about embracing the unknown. I think that is such a necessary takeaway when we're yearning for something that we won't
Yes.
necessarily be able to get, or that sort of embracing what we don't know or what we um, can't attain, so to speak, if
Yes.
it's in terms of love or whatever it might be that we're yearning for, sort of embracing that, whatever might come, the embracing the next piece, whether you have that closure or not. So because we don't all get closure, and that is a real piece of what has such power in your story, is that lack of closure, but you have used it to empower you forward rather than hold you down and keep looking for it. So I just think that is so important to highlight as a super strong takeaway from what you're saying. And the other piece, which again, the power of your words, but the power of words in general, is just another major component in what I'm hearing in your story, and how they can really do both to the human spirit. They can really bury us inside of ourselves if we hear words that are so painful and cut so deep, and especially in the development stage where you don't have that sense of self, um, then those words can become a piece of your development, and that is, what we hope no child has to develop under those negative words, but we know that that's happening. But then on the other side of the coin is the incredible power of those positive words, or
Right.
those affirmations from those around you, again, especially as a kid, when these words are coming from adults, the ones that you're learning from, the ones that are helping develop you and helping you grow, saying that the world needs to see your smile,
Yes.
that, the power in those words can also really propel you forward. So I'm just over here really, taking out like some of the many, many incredible points that you're highlighting in your story by just telling your story. And, I think all that to say, and I want us to continue along with you telling your story, but all that to say, uh, there's a reason why you wrote a book. And there's got to be a reason. And, that is really because I think, you understood the power of words at an early age. And, amongst all of the other things that you learned at an age that many of us, hadn't learned yet, you learned in those stuck with you, and you've been able to bring all of those lessons into putting together your memoir, which I think is so important for the world to have now in its hands.
Right, right. Yeah, I said, he- God had designed my life, even though my first job was like at 13 at a crab box. My mom had me cracking claws. But after that, like, I always seemed to be able to purposely work into the community with the youth, with substituting and everything. And periodically, when appropriate times would come, I would be able to share little pieces of my story. And I said, you know what? I said, and then throughout my life, people would know kind of a little bit and was like, you need to, your story should be, your your life should be a book. You should write a book. And I say, yeah, the book. Da, 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 da. But I'm like, I always said, if one part of my life could inspire, that's all I really, you know, aim to do, because there's so many circumstances, situations I found myself that I could have, and so many other people have had similar circumstances and worse, that I always keep in mind. I didn't have to live in a foster home, even though I was, adopted in kinship, but worse situations that felt despondent, felt like they wanted to give up, to give in, to felt like their life would not be nothing. They would be a nobody. They would, you know, just counted out, cast out. Um, what their dreams are just shot. What for? You know, to even go after the dreams after you've been your first foundation of sexuality has been shaken by molestation, and
Mm-hmm.
so confused. Why? What? So I've been there. So I said, if my story can help one person to inspire them, that there were those thoughts that came in my mind of wanting to
Mm-hmm.
give up and wanting to feel like that my whole life has been shaped around that circumstance or that situation. So why should I even care? You know, um,
And
then I was able to get out of that and get and work very hard to get to rebuild a more healthier mental um, mental mental health or mental stability in my
mm-hmm.
mind, and be able to view myself differently, to be able to understand my self-worth, to like we talked about previously, to say, if God gives me another day and I'm able to continue to live in this earthly life for a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
at least I can do is invest in myself
Yes.
to be the best me that I can be. And if transparency is at its best at this time, and I'm almost 50, then let's go for it. I wouldn't care if I was 26. If this was the season that transparency is at its best,
Mm-hmm.
for me to have my voice and be able to claim my life back and invest in me and say, I can do this. I can be the best at anything that I put my mind to. I can be the most best healthy and mother of four adult children, one minor, and do the best that I can, putting my foot forward, continue. No, is it going to be easy? Am I going to make mistakes? Because we're not perfect. Am I going to make mistakes on the along the way? Yes. Me and my I only had the one adult son, one son, and we had a mom and son talk today earlier, and he has a child, but I had to come back and apologize for being so passionately. I was passionately speaking, but so
Like I said,
I'm
away
not
with
going to say
words.
we're going to be perfect at anything. No, but if we can know and understand its growth, its progress, and we can honestly say, but I'm progressing, and be accountable for every mistake and learn from them, we got it. We can do
Mm-hmm.
this. Yeah, we can do this. And one thing I was thinking about what you were saying, Brie, about that first nugget that you were saying about uh, um, uh, as far as the choice and everything, as far as starting, that inspiration, as far as the book. And
Mm-hmm.
I always had to keep in mind with that, not embracing is choosing to be accountable for my actions. Daily,
Mm-hmm.
I work on this. And I really believe this will help someone too. Daily, I work on this. And when I say daily, I work on this because I just got out of a 4-year relationship last year, and it wasn't a good one. It was a repeated the cycle that I had to really come grips to myself and say, is this the best for me, and make a decision. What's best for Kim? What's
Mm-hmm.
best for Kim to live her remaining life with, and getting back to this, I can't control or choose anybody else's behavior or
Right.
responses. But what I can do is control my behavior
Mm-hmm.
and be accountable for my actions. And that's the only thing that I can do.
Oh my goodness. 1,000,000%. Yes. I'm just over here again. I'm like your biggest cheerleader in this corner, just listening to you because again, you're so much power in the words that you're saying. Um, I love we'll start right there and then I'm gonna say highlight a few more pieces that you spoke on. But let's start right here about how you cannot change others' actions.
Mm-hmm.
You can only remain accountable for your own. And I
Right.
think that actually pairs with, having this conversation with your son. And it just, in my head, it really sparked something that you had previously mentioned about breaking the generational curses. And in counseling, especially when it's something that involves trauma, we call it intergenerational trauma. And that is really when there's trauma passed down from one generation to the next unknowingly. So it's not necessarily trauma. It doesn't necessarily need to be physical or emotional or one exact thing. What it is basically a transference of their experience onto you. So if they feel that pain in some way, shape, or form, that pain is then put onto you, and then you feel the pain and you grow up and you push that pain onto your children and so on. And that is the cycle that we look to break. And I'm just hearing you talk about, you know, everything from building a strong mental health foundation to being accountable for your actions and what you do, and understanding that you can't be accountable for others. Um, and it's those are all just such incredible foundational pieces to breaking those intergenerational curses, that intergenerational trauma, and just hearing. Um, I know we've spoke on your kids, not even just on this podcast, but previously, and I even was lucky enough to say hello to your youngest daughter,
Yes.
and you just I can just see that being a mother is something that is so incredibly important for you and lights you up and fills your cup. And how, if however you want to put it, like you have done exactly what you need to do to make sure that your kids don't um, feel that generational trauma that you might have felt. So,
I put my best foot forward in it. Yes,
mm-hmm,
and it's not easy.
yeah,
It's not easy, Brie. And that's why I was trying to make sure that listeners know it's an
mm-hmm,
everyday battle, because like I was saying about the relationship, um, not being able to keep in mind, not being able to control anybody else's behavior and response. Not saying that they don't hurt,
right,
and they're not
mm-hmm,
disappointing, and they're not something that when it happens, it can blow your mind,
right,
absolutely blow your mind. But then this is when you have to work on yourself daily and reinvest in yourself and be enough awareness in you and build your support system that how you respond and how you behave is one of the best choices for you.
mm-hmm.
For you.
For you. not for others, not for the person across the table or
Yes,
down the street. It is for
yes.
you, and that is
And
so
not for your kids,
right.
for you. Because
I'm
I've been there.
I'm so
I've
happy.
been there. I chose because of my kids and stayed in relationships longer than what I should have because I didn't want my kids to feel the void of not having two parents in the home.
Mhm.
But I had to learn, and I wake up thinking about first and saying, Lord, if it's selfish, then you're going to have to charge me for being selfish. That's one thing I'm just obedient to. Like, but I can already claim it. But I have to know and first give him thanks for another day. But what choices Kim can make for me?
Mhm.
That way, I can be a better mom for my yay, a better mom for my four adult children, a better friend, a better future wife to whoever that may be. But better. But
Mhm.
first, it starts with me.
Absolutely. And I was going to say I'm so happy that you're speaking to the parents in the crowd as well, because I'm not a parent yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that hearing those words come from a parent is really, really important, because I think that, um, just from observation and speaking to other parents, that that can get really tricky, because
Right.
your kids are your world, understandably so, but you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're not taking care of you, if you are
You.
not becoming the best you and doing what's right for you, your kids will suffer in a way that you don't have no control over, because you think you're
Because
doing
you're compensating and
mhm,
doing for them.
right.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
I've been there where I had compensated. Because imagine, like Brie, I shared that little bit, with my journey, but I
mhm,
will share with the viewers. I won't go all deep in details. You got to get the book. But my first being a mom was at 15.
yes.
So my mentality of a teenage mom at 15, she was born July 31st. I turned 16 August 13th, and I was told I was a woman. I was told no birthday presents, no nothing,
Mm,
that I had now responsibility. But I always had in the back of my mind um, that no matter now that this is a child that I have to raise and love, and she loved me. She's a part of me, is that she would never feel the void that I felt
right,
of not having that mom.
right.
So I overcompensate. I said, none of my children, I don't care how many follows after her, but she set the tone.
Mhm.
So I remember living years sacrificing a lot of things. Even parents know food. First, they anything that I got, they got.
Yeah.
Now Manye has a whole speech at 6 years old. Maya, you said you wanted so and so for dinner. Mommy said she wanted this for dinner. Now, if I feel like there's some left over for you, you should have asked for what mommy wanted. Mommy's gonna eat her dinner and you're gonna eat yours. But it had to grow on me, Brie.
You
It
set the
didn't
boundaries.
happen overnight because I remember sacrificing,
Yeah.
and parents know what I'm talking about, especially the moms know what I'm talking about, by sharing everything that your life, your kids' life become your life. Your
It's
kids'
very
life
true.
become your life, and you
Yes.
will compensate and
Over.
me. I know I did an overcompensation even at young. I had four kids under 25 years old
Wow.
at one time. So
Wow.
um, I just made sure that they were my life, and then as I started investing in myself and going through many relationships and marriages, understanding the rule of thumb now starts with me. I
Yes.
have to make choices for me and invest in me,
Yes.
and having that self awareness and self love for me, for them.
Mhm.
And it's not them first, it's mommy,
Yeah.
it's Kim. And then I wouldn't even say mommy, I put me in a category of Kim.
Kim. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm human.
Yeah.
And me and my son had that conversation. and respect as your mother, but me as a black woman,
Hmm.
a woman that
Hmm.
isn't perfect, but is a role model for you to have another woman treat you as similar as how I am. The characteristics, the ethics, the work ethics, the morals, the values
Hmm.
that you see in me, I would want you to, because not just I'm your mom, but this black woman that is strong, not perfect, but has those, that is a good woman that you can say. So we had that
Absolutely.
conversation, yeah, today.
Uh,
Yeah.
that's I love that that is able to come into our conversation too, because how powerful is that? I mean, that is just that's almost like one of those real life defining talks with your kids, saying, like if you're looking for a partner, like I want you, I've tried to model the
Yes.
person that I hope you can
Yes.
see my characteristics and see who I am and understand my values and find that in a mirror for the partner that you choose.
You're right. See, I should have had you beside me because I think you had it that eloquently speaking.
I see. I thought you said it even more beautiful.
You need to share those words with me, and I'll be the god mom for your baby.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hold you to that. I mean, man,
I'm
you'll
gonna
have
hold you to that.
five children, and I don't know if you already have godchildren, but
No, I don't.
you're on the list.
I got one now. I'm on the list now. So
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. I hate to have to cut us short, but we have about 9 minutes left. So I want to do sort of the last things we do in the podcast first.
sure.
I do want to kind of bring purpose into it, as I always bring into the
Yeah.
end, and and I really want to wrap your book into it too, because I know that that is really the everything came full circle in you writing your book. So let's just talk for a minute or two, just letting us know about how you fulfilled a purpose in writing this, and what your plans are to come with it all.
Well, once again, when I got that accept and embrace it all
Mm-hmm.
from chapter to chapter, I even had my mental health therapist on speed dial during the whole time that I was writing this book during COVID, and it was one of my goals in life to fulfill, to inspire the world, to inspire the
Mm-hmm.
nation. I really want it to somehow get in a screenplay. And I
Amazing.
want one more book out, and that's through the dashes of life of the relationships, because um, the and going more in depth in relationships, especially in church and throughout my life, that I wasn't able to share because the memoir was more my solid foundation. It was all my
Mm-hmm.
marriages in there. It was all of my children that were born, because there's nothing going to come after mine, yay, except for Greece. Um,
except except for my babies, since we
so I'm done here. I'm done here. So all my birth of my children was there with the where I was mentally, all my marriages, and all the way from the beginning, as you were stating, until where I'm at now, and living life and embracing and accepting, and also how I built my support system, and not just embracing the unexpected outcomes, but also embracing different directions in my life, that how God will bring different people that doesn't look like us
Mm-hmm.
in your life, that you just need to embrace. That is a help. That is a motivation. That is inspiring. Don't push them away, but know that they're coming in for a plan in your life to help. So be transparent.
Yeah.
Be open for it. Just because they don't look like you, or that because they're not in your same culture or same race, or or gender, is a purpose for our life to have people coming in and out of our life. And I had to learn that some people are for seasons, some people are for a lifetime, but there are always a reason.
I love it. Amazing. Yeah, it's you Again, just to wow us one more time. I mean, you say things that it's like I just don't even I can't even follow that up. It's so perfectly put, and I love that. I've heard that before. People will come into your life for a season or a reason. You know, it's either or a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Yes, that you said it.
Yes,
See, I can't even. I know it was there.
yes.
um, well, I'm so excited to dive into your book. I know that it is going to be filled with just the incredible insight that you've brought. I look forward to really reading anything that you put out, talking about relationships as well, because I know that has been a really powerful part of your story and your journey as well. Well, Kim, I just thank you so much. We're gonna jump into the rapid fire round before we end, which is just a really quick way that we end it. But then I'm gonna leave you the floor one more time to say anything you'd like to the listeners, and we'll close it out.
Okay, did you want me to say the name of the book, or you'll be able to do the caption or
You
whatever?
you are definitely going to say, actually, why don't we do that now? So why don't you let everyone know where they can find you, name of the book, and all of that information. I will also, my listeners know, will put in all of the show notes anywhere I post on YouTube, on my social medias. All of my profiles will have all of the information as well.
Okay, so it is on Amazon and Goodreads,
Great.
and it's the epitome of Kimmy. So, and you can't miss it because it's the picture of me, a little brown skinned girl from the beginning. So that was the only picture that I have. So I was
Oh,
I was wrapped up. I don't have any pictures or
pictures from
anything.
when you
So
were
that
young.
was the first and the only picture that I have that my adopted parents had. So
Wow.
I thought that was very important for that to
Absolutely.
be the cover,
Yes.
So yeah, the epitome of Kimmy, and I do have a website www.kimberlyannbell.com. I definitely am excited to if anyone wants me to speak at any an
Hmm.
organization, or we I love to travel. Definitely you can book me on that website, and you can see my entire family too. So I'm hyped about that website. You can see the family that I talk about.
I love it. I might even post some of those pictures just because I am
Right,
just so
right.
excited
Yes,
about this
you're gonna
episode.
have to. You're gonna have to.
Oh, okay, amazing. So, The Epitome of Kimmy, you can find it on Amazon. Like I said, I will have that all shared everywhere, all links
Okay.
linked up, so everyone will be able to get direct access to that. All right, let's jump into the rapid fire round in the last
All
couple
right.
minutes. Um,
Okay.
so in the beginning of the episode, I say the three pillars of the podcast are development, decision making, and the dedication to purpose. So that's what these three questions are going to be on. The first one is development. Currently, in this very moment, are you working more on personal development or professional development?
Personal.
Personal. I love that you just answered that right away. It's not like I try to trick people, but I know as someone who studies personal and professional development that they're all intertwined. So I like to just see, in this moment right now, which one we choose.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so this next one is based on decision making. When you make decisions, do you go based more on choice, meaning numbers, analytics, science focused, or guiding voice, meaning gut, intuition, spirituality, or something else of the sort? Choice or guiding voice?
Guiding voice.
Guiding voice. I was gonna guess guiding voice just based on our conversation. A lot of actually, it's so interesting for me because a lot more of my guests actually go with guiding voice. Where, I love to hear that because I think it's really wonderful when we're either following, ourselves in that intuition or spirituality piece. So, I love to hear it. Guiding voice.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I think if you asked me a couple of years ago, I
hmm
would have been more with the other.
yeah,
But because I'm been sticking to the personal
yes.
development. I do my nature walks, and the first thing I do is have my set as time with my spiritual being, which is God,
Hmm.
thanking Him and giving my personal time first, so that I don't sway. Like I said 2 years ago, um, when something didn't feel right, I would always try to, normally I would try to outthink it
Yeah.
by my mind or my heart. Say, that gut.
From the beginning. Oh my gosh, that is too funny. I understand there's like a progression of how we make choices.
Yes.
All right. We've got 1 minute left here. So that last question is dedication to purpose. Do you think that this is a singular moment in time or a daily practice?
Daily practice.
Daily practice. All right. Kimberly Bell, everyone. Kimberly, thank you so, so much. It has been
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure. Absolutely. And it's the epitome of Kimmy, everyone. You can find her book on Amazon. And as I end all of my podcasts, until next time, let this be the moment.